The year was 1975. A vibrant community in New York was shaken to its core by a horrific crime. An 8-year-old girl was found murdered. The case sent shockwaves through the neighborhood, leaving residents grappling with fear and grief. Amidst this turmoil, the finger of suspicion fell upon 17-year-old David Bryant. It was a case that would forever scar his life and expose the vulnerabilities of a justice system meant to protect the innocent. David, a young man on the cusp of adulthood, found himself accused of a crime he could never fathom committing. The gravity of the charges, the weight of the evidence presented, and the relentless pursuit of a conviction would become the defining narrative of his life for the next 4 decades. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of a long and arduous journey, one that would test his spirit, his faith in humanity, and his belief in the very foundations of justice. David's world, once filled with the promise of youth and the warmth of family, was about to be plunged into the cold, harsh reality of a system that had already deemed him guilty. The carefree innocence of his 17 years was ripped away, replaced by the fear and uncertainty of a future shrouded in prison bars. The weight of the accusation, the fear in the eyes of his loved ones, and the looming spectre of a life unjustly imprisoned became his constant companions. David's fight for freedom had just begun. The interrogation room became David's tormentor. For 10 grueling hours he faced a barrage of accusations, threats, and intimidation tactics. Denied food, deprived of sleep, and stripped of his basic human rights, David was a pawn in a game where the ends justified the means. The relentless pressure from law enforcement, determined to secure a conviction, chipped away at his resolve. Every denial, every plea of innocence fell on deaf ears. Exhausted, terrified, and broken, David succumbed to the pressure. He confessed. It was a confession born not of guilt but of desperation, the hope of escape from the suffocating confines of that interrogation room, the longing to see his family again, and the naive belief that truth would ultimately prevail clouded his judgment. David's coerced confession became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, a testament to the devastating power of coercion and the fragility of justice when faced with a system determined to win at all costs. His words, uttered under duress, would come to haunt him for years to come. The confession, obtained through psychological manipulation and physical exhaustion, became a weapon wielded against him, sealing his fate and setting in motion a chain of events that would rob him of his freedom. David's ordeal in that interrogation room serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of the innocent when confronted with a system more focused on securing convictions than seeking truth. The trial should have been David's sanctuary, a place where the scales of justice would tip in favor of truth. Instead, it became another stage for the miscarriage of justice that had already begun. The coerced confession, obtained through hours of psychological manipulation, took center stage. The jury, unaware of the coercive tactics employed, heard a confession that seemed to seal David's fate. What the jury didn't hear, what the prosecution failed to present, was the evidence that could have set him free. A simple blood type comparison, a routine procedure in criminal investigations, was overlooked, ignored, or deliberately suppressed. This crucial piece of evidence, had it been presented, would have revealed the truth. David's blood type did not match the one found at the crime scene. His lawyer, whether through negligence or incompetence, failed to request this crucial test, a failure that would have devastating consequences for David's future. The trial, meant to be a beacon of truth and justice, became a theater of injustice. David, a young man trapped in a system rigged against him, could only watch as his life was judged on the basis of a coerced confession and a defense that failed to present the evidence that could have set him free. The verdict, guilty, echoed through the courtroom, a resounding confirmation of a justice system gone astray. The years that followed were a blur of prison bars, stolen moments with loved ones, and the unwavering belief that one day the truth would prevail. David's spirit, though battered by the injustice he had endured, refused to be broken. He clung to the hope of freedom, fueled by the love of his family and the unwavering support of those who refused to believe in his guilt. His case, taken up by the dedicated lawyers at Centurion Ministries, became a beacon of hope in the fight against wrongful convictions. Their tireless efforts, driven by a commitment to justice, uncovered the truth that had been buried for far too long. New blood evidence, tested with technology unavailable at the time of David's trial, categorically proved his innocence. The DNA evidence, a testament to scientific advancement and the unwavering pursuit of truth, shattered the prosecution's case. It revealed the flaws in the initial investigation, the reliance on a coerced confession, and the devastating consequences of a system that had failed to protect an innocent man. The witness, whose testimony had played a pivotal role in David's conviction, recanted, claiming that his statement had been coerced by the police. The truth, suppressed for years, finally came to light, revealing a web of injustice that had ensnared an innocent man. David's exoneration, while a triumphant victory, could not erase the scars of his ordeal. The years lost, the opportunities missed, and the emotional toll of wrongful imprisonment remained. Yet there was a sense of vindication, a bittersweet victory that reaffirmed his faith in the possibility of justice, even if it arrived decades too late. David's journey did not end with his exoneration. He emerged from the shadow of prison a free man, but the fight for justice was far from over. The state, while acknowledging his innocence, refused to grant him compensation for the years he had unjustly spent behind bars. The reason? A legal loophole, a cruel twist of fate that added insult to injury. New York State's unjust conviction statute, designed to provide financial restitution to those wrongly imprisoned, contained a clause that proved to be David's biggest hurdle. The clause stipulated that anyone whose conviction was based on a confession deemed voluntary at the time of trial was ineligible for compensation, regardless of subsequent exoneration. David's coerced confession, obtained through hours of relentless interrogation, came back to haunt him, a cruel reminder of the system's failure to protect him. The state, in essence, was punishing him for the very injustice it had inflicted upon him. His case became a stark illustration of the inadequacies of the compensation system, highlighting the need for comprehensive reform to ensure that those who have been wrongfully imprisoned receive not just acknowledgement of their innocence, but also tangible support to rebuild their lives. David's fight for compensation became a fight for the dignity of all those who had been wronged by the justice system, a fight for recognition, restitution, and a chance to heal the wounds inflicted by years of wrongful imprisonment. In the annals of David's long fight for freedom, two organizations stand out as beacons of hope: Justice, Centurion Ministries, and the Innocence Project. Centurion Ministries, a small but mighty organization dedicated to freeing the wrongly convicted, took on David's case with unwavering became his voice when he had none, his champions in the face of a system that had failed him. Their lawyers, driven by a profound sense of justice, meticulously reviewed the evidence, uncovered the truth, and they were not deterred by the complexities of the case, the years that had passed, or the uphill battle they faced against a system reluctant to admit its mistakes. The Innocence Project work in using DNA evidence to exonerate the wrongly convicted provided invaluable support to David's case. Their expertise in forensic science, their commitment to justice, and their unwavering provided a glimmer of hope in the darkest of times. These organizations, along with countless others dedicated to fighting wrongful convictions, stand as testaments to the power of perseverance, the dignity, and the importance of holding the justice system accountable for its failures. They are a beacon of hope for those languishing behind bars, living proof that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable prevail. Their work is a constant reminder that the fight for justice is never over, that every individual deserves a fair trial, and that the pursuit of truth must never cease. David's case, while unique in its details, is tragically not an isolated incident. It shines a harsh light on the systemic failures that plague the criminal justice system, failures that have led to the wrongful convictions of countless innocent individuals. At the heart of these miscarriages of justice lies a complex interplay of factors, each contributing to a system that is often more focused on securing convictions than ensuring fairness. Coerced confessions, often obtained through hours of relentless interrogation, intimidation tactics, and psychological manipulation, remain a leading cause of wrongful convictions. The pressure to close cases, coupled with implicit biases and a culture that prioritizes confessions over truth-seeking, creates an environment where the vulnerable are most at risk. Eyewitness misidentification, often influenced by factors such as stress, trauma, and the passage of time, is another major contributor to wrongful convictions. Despite its inherent flaws, eyewitness testimony continues to hold significant weight in courtrooms, often eclipsing other forms of evidence and contributing to miscarriages of justice. Inadequate defense representation, particularly in cases involving indigent defendants who cannot afford quality legal counsel, further exacerbates the problem. Overworked public defenders lacking the time and resources to conduct thorough investigations often find themselves unable to provide adequate representation, leaving their clients vulnerable to wrongful convictions. These systemic failures, deeply ingrained in the fabric of the criminal justice system, demand urgent attention. Addressing these issues requires a fundamental shift in perspective, a move away from a culture that prioritizes convictions over justice and towards a system that values fairness, accuracy, and the presumption of innocence. David's story is not just his own. It is a story echoed by countless others who have endured the nightmare of wrongful conviction. Their voices, often silenced behind bars, paint a harrowing picture of the human cost of a flawed justice system. They speak of years lost, families torn apart, and the enduring trauma of living under the shadow of false accusations. The worst part wasn't even the prison itself. Shared one exoneree, his voice heavy with the weight of his experience. It was the isolation, the feeling that nobody believed me, that I was completely alone in my fight for freedom. Another exoneree, his eyes reflecting the pain of years lost, spoke of the difficulty of reintegrating into society after decades of wrongful imprisonment. People look at you differently, he confessed. There's always this stigma, this doubt that lingers, even after you've been declared innocent. Their stories, each one a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, serve as a powerful reminder of the urgent need for reform. They highlight the importance of safeguarding against wrongful convictions, ensuring adequate legal representation for all, and providing comprehensive support for exonerees as they rebuild their lives. These voices, once lost in the labyrinth of the justice system, now resonate with a powerful message. Justice delayed is justice denied. David Bryant's ordeal stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of wrongful conviction. It is a call to action, a demand for a justice system that truly lives up to its name. Legislative reform is not merely an option, it is an imperative. The current system, with its loopholes and inconsistencies, fails to adequately compensate those who have been robbed of their freedom. The focus should not be on finding reasons to deny compensation, but rather on providing meaningful restitution that acknowledges the depth of the injustice suffered. Paul Castellero, legal director of Centurion Ministries, aptly stated, "The blood typing on the semen indicates that David Bryant is stone-cold innocent of this crime." His words echo the irrefutable evidence that secured David's freedom, yet the battle for just compensation continues. State Senator Brad Hoylman and Assemblymember Dan Quart have taken up the mantle, proposing amendments to New York's unjust conviction statute. Their efforts to allow compensation for exonerees like David, who can prove their innocence by clear and convincing evidence, offer a glimmer of hope. However, legislative reform is only one piece of the puzzle. We need comprehensive reform that addresses the root causes of wrongful convictions. This includes robust funding for public defender offices, mandatory recording of interrogations, and rigorous oversight of forensic laboratories. Furthermore, we must address the issue of prosecutorial accountability. When prosecutors withhold evidence, engage in misconduct, or prioritize winning at all costs, innocent people suffer. We need stronger mechanisms to hold them accountable for their actions. The fight for justice does not end with David's release, or even with legislative reform. It requires a fundamental shift in our collective consciousness, a recognition that the pursuit of justice must always be tempered with compassion and a commitment to truth. Only then can we truly say that we have learned from the tragic ordeal of David Bryant and countless others who have been failed by the very system that was meant to protect them. Only then can we hope to create a justice system worthy of its name.